Danita Barrett's cause of death had been ruled a homicide. They said it was very clear strangulation.
She was always a show-ducking girl.
911 call came through. The hotel staff had located another body.
It's uncommon to have 2 women killed within a week by asphyxiation. I noticed several cameras facing directly at the room that Ashley was murdered in. We see that the suspect is leaving. He's walking quickly. We need to find out who he is. I want to get this person off the streets immediately.
Danita was living on Annapolis Road with her boyfriend Justin and her 2-year-old son. Her daughter was 5 years old and living with her grandma, but she still made time to see her and be around her. She was a good mom. Danita didn't like her name. She preferred to be called Lexi. We met 2014, 2015. A year before she had her first daughter, and we just never left each other's side after that. She was like my best friend. She was always a show-ducking girl, and we went through like everything together in our teenage years. She was like the realest person you could ever meet. We was planning to see each other. I texted her early in the day just to check on her, and she responded back like she was okay, and I went to work. I didn't hear from him again after that.
Shortly after midnight on March 22nd of 2021, 911 operators told us that we had a suspicious death at Annapolis Road. An adult female was found unresponsive. Primary officer arrived. The civilians on the sidewalk. The victim's sister, they informed him that the deceased, Miss Barrett, was inside the dwelling. He reports Danita was laying in the middle of the floor on her stomach.
EMS are already on the scene.
The medics could not revive her. I get there in maybe 15, 20 minutes after the call. Myself and Detective Scott entered the residence. It appeared that there was no forced entry into the house. Things seemed neat and orderly. Danita's cell phone was next to her body. And we noticed that there was an unwrapped condom in the room. Medical examiners examined Ms. Barrett's body on the floor. The body was in full rigor mortis, so we assumed it had been there probably at least 8 to 12 hours. The medical examiner didn't find any injuries that you could see with the naked eye. It left us a little puzzled as far as the cause of death.
Let me know what you find.
But I felt in my gut that it wasn't natural.
Detective McDonald heads outside to speak to the victim's sister, Diana.
Tell me what happened here.
She informed us that she was brought to the location by Danita's boyfriend, Justin. And he's the one that actually discovered Danita's body.
Go on.
He told Danita's sister that he had gone over to the house. There were no lights on. He actually tripped over the body.
Instead of calling 911, Justin phoned Danita's brother and sister.
What?
And then they went to the location. After they went in and saw the body, her brother called 911.
Justin fled the scene soon after.
We were informed Justin had been in a car parked across the street, but prior to our arrival, he left the scene.
He just drove off.
Danita's sister knew the boyfriend's first name was Justin, and that's all the information she had.
Okay. What else can you tell me about Danita?
Danita's sister was very candid in telling us that Danita was a prostitute, that she utilized her house there on Annapolis Road as a place to meet her customers. I can only surmise one of two things happened. She was either killed by a customer and/or She was killed by Justin. Danita had only been prostituting for about 6 months, and that she was doing it solely to provide a better life for her and her son. She assured me that the only substance that Danita had ever used was marijuana.
Okay. Thank you. McDonald.
I got a phone call from the OCME's office, and they informed me that Danita's cause of death had been ruled a homicide by asphyxiation. They said it was very clear it was strangulation.
The news of Danita's death spreads fast.
My cousin called me like, yeah, oh my God, Daz, I'm sorry I gotta be the person to tell you, but Lexi is gone, yo. So I'm crying, and like, me and her have been through so much together. And I'm asking her, like, what happened? She couldn't really tell me what happened. I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, she just had her son. Like, she didn't even get to watch him grow up and see neither one of her children grow to their teenage years, take them to school, and none of that.
Two detectives from my squad did an area canvass, and they spoke to a young lady who lived several doors down from Danita's house. She informed them that approximately a year ago, Danita and her boyfriend had gotten into a loud altercation that ended with hands put on her neck, but they didn't know of a police report and if anything ever became of it. Justin became more of a person of interest, so we had our homicide operations unit start looking for Justin.
No more neighbors come forward with information, so investigators look for electronic witnesses.
Detectives canvassed the area to find ring cameras or store surveillance cameras. Hopefully we could see someone going in the house, and they also informed me of a CCTV camera, city-owned, at the top of the block of Annapolis Road in front of a firehouse. Danita's house is probably several hundred yards away from this camera.
While they wait for access to the CCTV footage, investigators examine the items recovered from Danita's home.
Detectives had searched the home and found her cell phone. They had requested a warrant to look through her phone to figure out who she had last been in communication with.
Cell phones are a wealth of information, but almost all phones now have passcodes. Believe it or not, it's more common than you would think. People use either their birthday, their kid's birthday. So I used Danita's child's birthday, which actually opened the phone.
There were a lot of calls and missed and unanswered text messages. But there was a text conversation in Miss Barrett's phone that was the last message that she had responded to. She had directed somebody who was planning on meeting her to her neighbor's house, to their back door, rather than to her address. I would think she wanted to see who was going to be meeting her before that person knew where she lived.
It's a customer she actually wants to date. And then she'd call them over and they'd utilize the back door of her residence instead of the front door. That way, your neighbors don't see people coming and going in the front of the house. Danita had never responded to any more messages after 1:40. There were a lot of incoming, but she never responded to them.
Hey, I've got a time frame.
They gave us a time of 1:40 as approximately the time that we believe the assault had occurred. We ran that number through our databases in the department.
Yeah. Can you run a number for me?
While they wait for the results of the check, investigators analyze the CCTV footage.
Go to the Annapolis Road camera and start at 1:40.
This particular camera we had on Annapolis Road, it panned from one location and it would go around before it came back again.
Punch in there.
As we were watching the CCTV cameras, as it panned down towards Danita's house, we saw an individual several hundred yards down the street. We were watching the CCTV pan down towards Danita's house. The distance was so great that we couldn't tell if the individual was going to her house.
Can you clean it up?
We couldn't get a good description of the person, even what they were wearing. It's close to the time where we think the time of death was. So we were a little excited that maybe if this person had left the house and walked back up towards the camera, hopefully we could see this person again. When our cameras are rotating, you more or less hold your breath for the next rotation.
It usually takes about 45 seconds for the camera to rotate fully around. Sometimes the camera footage is so frustrating, right? When you need it to be on one side of the street and the camera is inevitably on the other side of the street.
We never saw him come back out of the house. We assumed it probably was one of the neighbors.
Okay, let's keep looking through it.
We kind of concentrated on the time between 1:30 and 2:30 down Annapolis Road. We knew she wasn't using the front door for her customers, but we were hoping we'd see something, maybe someone stop out front and then go around the back of the house. My partner noticed a delivery van coming out of an alley. Directly underneath, or pretty much underneath, a CCTV camera in front of our house.
That's odd.
It's very uncommon for people to drive in these alleys in this area. There's a lot of debris and trash in the alleys. Once it pulled out, it made a right turn on Annapolis Road, and it appeared to stop in front of Danita's house. We never see anyone get out of the vehicle or go back into the vehicle.
Punch in on the plate. I can't read it.
It was parked there for longer than you would expect a delivery truck to be.
10, 15 minutes later, that vehicle leaves from in front of Danita's house, makes a U-turn on Annapolis Road. And drives up, back underneath the camera, and out of sight of the camera.
They asked me to subpoena the records from that retail company to see if they could figure out which truck had been in the area at that time and maybe who had been driving it. The company did not have GPS tracking on their van, so we weren't able to determine who had been driving the truck at that time.
Once the van pulls away, you're a little disappointed that it didn't capture what you hoped it would have captured. Seeing Danita alive, would have been a great help as far as closing the timeline in, but we never saw her enter or exit the house.
The footage from the fire station camera reveals no further leads.
There was a camera opposite Danita's house across the street.
Play this.
It also had some video. Annapolis Road is like 6 lanes across, so it's a good distance across the road. It's not just a smaller city street. The system was so neglected that images really weren't that clear.
Detective McDonald receives notification of a breakthrough in identifying Danita's boyfriend, Justin.
We obtained a screenshot of Justin. We used facial recognition through the Baltimore City Police Department. We identified Justin as Justin Powell. We ran him through Baltimore City databases, and it was established that he had an open warrant for handgun violation.
The medical examiner shares the results of Danita's autopsy with investigators.
There was evidence of sexual activity on her body, so we knew that the person that had strangled her had engaged in some sort of sexual activity with her. When you have a sexual component to a crime, you do look towards the domestic partner first. Strangulation has a very personal component to it. You are literally taking the life out of somebody with your own hands.
I was pretty confident Justin was the suspect.
I need a warrant for Justin Powell.
I passed this information on to the Warrant Apprehension Task Force and Homicide Operations, and they went out to search for Mr. Powell. He's now our #1 suspect in the murder of Danita Barrett.
Meantime, Danita's family and friends gather for her funeral.
Danita was well known in the neighborhood. A whole bunch of people came, more than I expected. When her daughter walked up to her casket, her daughter broke down. It was the saddest thing. It was the saddest thing like you could ever see. Like, she asked, "Is that my mommy?" And then just broke down crying. I just started crying. It was so sad. It was so sad. It was so sad.
The Warrant Apprehension Task Force is still trying to locate Justin when 911 receives another call.
This Baltimore City 911, yes, address of your emergency.
911 call came through hotel staff at the Deluxe Plaza off of Pulaski Highway. Had located another body.
On March 28, 2021, a patrol officer was dispatched to the Deluxe Plaza Motel in Baltimore. The motel staff advised that they went to a guest room who had not checked out on time. They knocked on the door, and after receiving no answer, they used their room key to enter the room. Upon entering the room, they found a deceased female on the ground. The officer notified the homicide unit. We're not sure what we're gonna find when we get there. I get to the room. There's a deceased female laying face down on the ground next to the bed, still wearing clothes. I don't notice any signs of trauma or foul play. There is an empty pill bottle and a drug paraphernalia.
Initially, they thought maybe it was a drug overdose because there was some evidence in the hotel room of recent drug use.
The medical investigator arrives. The victim is rolled over and the body is examined. The victim was strangled and the larynx was broken. I would start looking around the room to help identify the victim. We located a credit card which had the name Ashley Lambert, as well as a cup from Dunkin' Donuts. This time in the investigation, we need to find the family of Ashley Lambert to notify them of her death. We check the police database and we find out that she has family in a neighboring county.
Ashley was at one time my wife, and she is my children's mother. She was very caring and kind and sweet, and she was also really good with children.
My mom, she was very outgoing. She loved to be with family. She really loved to hang out with her kids. She was very open, and she made you feel like you could talk to her about anything, you know. I was never nervous to ever tell her anything. She loved making people feel special.
She was outgoing, opinionated, funny, happy, but she dealt with mental illness. She would go through different periods in her life, but even through all that, she, always tried to be the best mother, tried to be the best wife, daughter, friend.
Ashley started struggling with drugs, which is why the children came to stay with me and why her sons were with her grandparents. She always hoped to get her own place and for the kids to come back to stay with her. She had tried to get help with rehab. It wasn't successful. It's very hard to kick a habit like that. She was a beautiful, kind-hearted person.
In Baltimore, it's uncommon to have 2 women killed within a week, both being found in a room by themselves and both being strangled.
Danita Barrett. It was a very similar case. My job at this juncture is to find Danita's boyfriend, our #1 suspect, Justin, and bring him in for questioning.
Back at the Deluxe Plaza, investigators search for clues that could identify Ashley's killer.
Now that we know this is a murder, it's time to step up the investigation. We need to find witnesses, evidence, video footage to help capture this killer. I noticed that the motel is equipped with several cameras, to include the lobby as well as the parking lot, facing directly at the room that Ashley was murdered in. We go back to the security room of the motel, where we can now view all the cameras.
That hotel has several cameras. They have one camera near the check-in area. They have one camera that overlooks the parking lots where the doors to the hotel rooms are.
I noticed it's a decent video system. The cameras are not equipped with sound, but you can see clear pictures.
Okay, can you start from where you last saw her?
So I watched the video to find out when the person was last seen alive, to show what led up to the death of Ashley Lambert.
Okay, there she is. You pause it there.
At this time, it was 2:03 p.m. on March 27th.
Okay, just keep it playing.
And I see an individual walking quickly.
Back it up.
An individual in a hoodie and camouflage backpack walks up to the door carrying a white bag.
Zoom in there.
He knocks on the door. Ashley Lambert answers. After a brief conversation, he's led in the room. I continue watching, and the next thing I see is this individual leaving the room approximately 25 minutes later. Seeing that this individual is in the room for only 25 minutes, and now he's leaving the room, walking away quickly, it looks very suspicious to me. The hoodie he's wearing is partially covering his face, and the camera footage is not clear enough to identify him. It's frustrating not seeing anyone else enter or exit that room. Now we know that this individual is our potential killer.
Can you follow him?
I discovered there is an additional camera in the front of the building. This camera showed the entrance to the motel. I noticed that he had a red hoodie and he's standing at a vending machine, digging through his backpack. I could see his face and it was covered by a mask, but I could tell it was dark skinned. And the individual walks eastbound on Pulaski Highway, out of the view of the camera footage.
I need a copy of this. Can you bring up the details of who rented the room?
She wasn't the one that rented the room. The room had been rented by a male. He had signed the rental paperwork and had rented the room initially for one night. The detectives learned that he extended the room for a second night.
The hotel staff provided us the name of the person who rented the room, and his name was Michael. The motel provided information on how he paid for the room, as well as his address and phone number. Now we need to find Michael as soon as possible to find out if he's responsible for the death of Ashley. We get to Michael's house and knock on the door. It's in the back of your mind that this could be the potential killer. You have to be careful. You don't know what to expect. You just go in prepared and be ready for anything. Michael answers.
G'day, sir. Can I ask you a couple questions?
He did not match the description of the last individual seen leaving the room. Michael comes outside with us, tries to get us away from his house. He seems a bit nervous. And this time he explains to us that his wife and newborn child are inside the house. He explains that he met Ashley on a dating app, met her at a hotel because he likes to get high. He rented the room the first night, hung out with Ashley, they partied, and he said he left in the morning.
What about the second night?
He later came back to the motel, and Ashley asked him if he would rent the motel for one more night because she had no place to stay. Michael paid for the room.
Did you go back again?
Michael said the last time he saw Ashley was March 27th, the day before Ashley was found murdered. I believe what Michael was telling us. If Michael is not the killer,
Is that a footage from the motel again?
then we need to find out who is. I want to make sure we get this person off the streets immediately. At this time, I continue watching the video footage to find more clues.
Can you punch in there?
I noticed that the man in the red hoodie is carrying a small white pastry bag before he enters Ashley's room. I need to find out where he purchased this item, which could lead me to additional footage and hopefully his identification. I watched the video footage and I saw the direction where he came from before entering Ashley's room.
Can you bring up the map?
Knowing that this individual in the red hoodie is walking, we wanted to find a location that was within walking distance. And we noticed that there was two locations, a liquor store and a Dunkin' Donuts. They were only a few hundred yards away.
Inside of the hotel room, there was a styrofoam coffee cup from Dunkin' Donuts. So they went to the Dunkin' Donuts.
I immediately noticed that they had cameras on the outside of the establishment. I asked the manager if we could view the footage.
Can you start at 1:30 on the 28th?
They were able to see the same person wearing the same clothing approaching the Dunkin' Donuts 30 minutes before we see this person entering Ashley's room.
Camera footage shows the individual in the red hoodie from before, but it's not clear enough to show his face, and he's still wearing a mask before he entered.
Detectives show a picture of the suspect to the restaurant staff. A waitress recalls serving him on the day of Ashley's murder.
Did he make that purchase with cash, or did he use a credit card? Because if he used a credit card to pay for this item, we have a better chance of tracking him down.
Can you get me those transaction details?
Dunkin' Donuts was able to go back into their system and regenerate the receipt that had the credit card information for that purchase.
Because of legal reasons, Dunkin' Donuts is not allowed to give us the information about the person who made the purchase.
I then had to subpoena the bank in order to get the actual records from the bank to show who that bank account belonged to.
Meantime, investigators on the Danita Barrett case receive a list of names from the numbers on the victim's cell.
I've got a hit on the phone.
Detective McDonald learns the name of the last person to text Danita.
And it came back with a result, and that result was a gentleman called Christopher Tyson. We ran a background check on him because he wasn't a convicted felon. in this database. There were other run-ins he had with different entities, whether it be law enforcement or school, but he did have a past.
I might have a lead.
Up to now, investigators have focused on finding Danita's boyfriend, Justin Powell.
Now I'm like a 50-50. Could it be Justin? Could it be Christopher Tyson? So I was pretty much split down the middle. It could be either one at this juncture. We established that Christopher Tyson had called police himself for a domestic incident, which he was assaulted. That's what he reported. We wanted to talk to the girlfriend who supposedly assaulted him and try to get some background on Mr. Tyson. So myself and my partner responded out to the county to find his girlfriend.
Hi. Heard ask you about Christopher Tyson.
She was not at home at the time, but we spoke to the girlfriend's mother, who told us where Mr. Tyson worked.
Is there anything else you can tell us about him?
He worked for a well-known retailer. That was significant because we saw the van owned by that company on the CCTV creeping out of the alley, stopping and parking in front of Danita's house at the approximate time that we thought the murder had occurred.
The woman tells detectives that her daughter was charged with no crime in connection with the alleged assault on Tyson.
She also said that she thought that he had anger management problems.
Thank you for your time.
Investigators contact the retailer to find out Tyson's position within the company.
Can you tell me what role Christopher Tyson did for you?
His management at his place of employment, they said he was not a driver. He was only working the warehouse. He didn't have access to the trucks. We were unable to rule out 100% that he didn't have access to the vehicle, but at this juncture, I had no proof that he could have taken one of their vehicles.
While investigators work out how Christopher Tyson connects to Danita Barrett's murder, the detectives on the Ashley Lambert case receive a hit on the bank card used in Dunkin' Donuts.
Once we obtained the subpoena, it only took a few days to find out the name of the person who made that purchase. And the name of the person that used the card was Christopher Tyson.
Tyson?
Detective Steve McDonald sits diagonal from me, and I remember saying that, oh, we have the name of Christopher Tyson. He then says, wait.
I've got that name on my file.
At that juncture, I felt confident that Christopher Tyson had also committed the murder of Danita Barrett.
At this point in the investigation, Detective McDonald and I start to work together. Now we need to bring Christopher Tyson in for questioning. We obtain his phone information, and we obtain an order to track his cell phone.
Got it. Let's roll.
His phone was tracked to the 2000 block of Bryant Street. A search and seizure warrant was obtained for Christopher's house. The feeling you get when you're about to enter a house where a potential suspect is for murder, you get a little fired up. We went to the location, surrounded the house. You get a little excited, a little nervous. You're hoping that they're in there. We execute that search and seizure warrant. When officers entered his room,
Hey!
And we locate Christopher Tyson in the second floor front bedroom. He was found hiding under the bed.
It's your hands! It's your hands!
He was then secured without incident.
Come on, get up. Get hands behind your back. Get up back.
He is then brought down to the homicide office for questioning.
Let's get out. Let's go.
At this time, I conduct the search warrant of Christopher's room. I'm looking for any evidence, anything that will help solve this case.
They knew that they were looking for a backpack that had pretty unique patterns on it, and they were looking for a reddish-brown sweatshirt that he may have been wearing.
and we did locate the camouflage backpack. And within that backpack was Ashley Lambert's phone.
And they found what they believed to be the sweatshirt in the surveillance video. They did find the credit card that Mr. Tyson had used to make the purchase. The numbers matched up on the receipt. And a bag full of women's underwear.
It's not common for a murder suspect to keep items from a murder. They don't want to be connected to the murder at all. But I felt like Christopher Tyson was keeping these items almost as a trophy.
Detective Moran interviewed Mr. Tyson first.
Do you know Ashley Lambert?
Christopher is questioned about the murder of Ashley Lambert. At first, he denies even knowing her, denies being at that motel. But at this point, we show him a picture of the individual that caught on camera footage wearing the red hoodie and backpack.
Is that you?
He immediately points that out as being himself. As we presented with more and more evidence, he starts to break. Finally, Christopher tells us that he met Ashley on a dating app. He said when he got to the hotel, Ashley was making fun of him, at which he took offense to.
He described it as she started getting angry at him, and that's when he described that he choked her.
He said that before he left the motel, he checked for her pulse, and she was still alive. He then left the area. At that point, him admitting that he strangled her and he was the last person to be seen with her, I was confident that he killed her. Detective Steve McDonald comes in next.
I go in there and sit in and talk to Mr. Tyson.
So what can you tell me about Danita Barrett?
It's pretty much the same scenario. Mr. Tyson denied ever being in Westport. I'd show him the text messaging.
What about these text messages?
He said, yes, I was in there. You know, I had sex with Miss Barrett, and she made fun of me. We got into an altercation, and I just choked her out. And as I left, I checked her pulse, and she was alive. Maybe someone else killed her after I left. And when we was talking about these people's deaths, he didn't have a lot of emotion. I thought in my mind, there could be more women out there that this guy has assaulted and or killed.
They asked him, have you done this before? And he said something to the effect of, well, why don't you tell me who else you think that I hurt?
He implicated himself enough, and with the corroborating evidence we already had. He's charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Tyson pleaded guilty to the murder of Miss Barrett and the murder of Miss Lambert.
Tyson enters a special plea that admits the evidence against him would likely result in his conviction. He receives 2 life sentences. Prosecutors charged Danita Barrett's boyfriend, Justin Powell, with no crimes in connection to her death.
I wish every case had a camera pointed directly at my crime scene. That CCTV camera footage, it was the strongest evidence that we could find to show that no one else could have committed this crime. Had he been left on the street for any longer, I have no doubt that there would have been another victim.
I think we definitely took a budding serial killer off the streets of Baltimore.
It's nothing you could do to make up for my best friend's death. I miss our talks. She was my motivation. She was my inspiration. She kept me on my toes, and we kept each other laughing.
Ashley didn't deserve what was done to her. She was taken from her entire family way too soon. She was just senselessly taken. And, you know, she's loved and she's missed. Her memory lives on through my daughters.
I miss how nice she was, and I miss how she would stick up for anybody, and she was always just nice to everybody, and she had like a kind heart.
I miss her, celebrating even the small things with me because she would definitely be, I think she would be proud, of how I am right now.
Next time on See No Evil.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
This guy's not moving.
This attack was violent. We start to look for any surveillance cameras.
What is the address of your emergency?
Blasted out. I went down there and some guy was putting a blanket over her body. This guy's not moving.
This attack was violent.
It's like having my worst nightmare come true.
We start to look immediately for any surveillance cameras.
There's probably blood on his shoes.
We're in a race against time to find this person as quickly as possible.
Tony, he had a lot of love to give. Tony met his wife. They had a couple of kids, and he was a really good father. He loved spending time with them.
He was a fun dad, just kind of the kind that's, threw the kids up in the air all the time and ran outside with them.
There wasn't a kid that didn't love him. Just about every picture ever taken of them, it was always him holding the babies. That's the happiest he'd ever been.
But my brother had a hard time with his mental health, and his depression did start to get a lot more noticeable.
We tried to get him into counseling and tried to get him on meds, and he refused to do it. He said, "Mom, if I try to get that help, that means I'm going to have to admit to myself I'm broken, and I just can't do that."
When he and his wife ended up splitting up, it was really, really hard on him.
Hi. I hope you can help. I'm looking for my son.
We had no idea where he went.
As a family, we were trying everything we could to try to find him.
We would try to, contact him through email or Messenger on Facebook, but he pretty much literally dropped off the face of the earth for us.
Every day, there's always that constant fear that something was going to happen to him.
What is the address of your emergency?
Blasted out. I'm on the 4th floor. I went down there and some guy was putting a blanket over her body, and it's still there. And the body never moved.
Okay, 1 second for me here.
I heard just yelling, "Stop, stop!" This guy's not moving.
All right, the officer should be arriving any minute now, okay?
The responding officers, they found the victim down on the sidewalk.
Unresponsive, yet EMS rolling.
He had severe trauma to his head and face. He was having difficulty breathing.
He was identified by an ID that was in his pocket. The victim was James Tony Wise. Tony Wise was transferred to the hospital. Arrived around 7:30 in the morning. At this time, officers had the scene taped off, trying to separate witnesses and preserving the crime scene.
When we arrived, we filmed crime scenes to capture and document the evidence.
There was an opening to a fence to a parking lot. That's where Tony Wise was located.
This must be where the assault took place.
There was a pool of blood. I saw some other items that were kind of strewed upon the ground. There was the metal scooter, pink pepper spray. There was a tent that was kind of smashed down to the ground.
Did you know Tony Wise? Okay.
We had spoken to a witness out at the scene who told us they were familiar with Tony Wise. That witness identified his tent and said that he had been in that area for some time.
Take this out over here.
We were able to see that there were shoe impressions on the tent that appeared to be in blood.
If we could locate that shoe, that was potentially going to be a key piece of evidence for us down the road.
It definitely stood out as something that was a pretty violent attack. We were wondering what could have been the motive to what happened.
Detectives contact Marcus Dayton, the 911 caller who witnessed the attack from his apartment.
This is Detective Greenlee with the Portland Police Bureau. Thanks for taking my call. So if you can just kind of start from the beginning, you were in your residence there?
It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on that side of the street, my window.
Marcus Dayton looked down to the street below his unit, out to 3rd Avenue.
And all of a sudden, I see this guy, like, lifting himself off the fence and then coming down with his leg, stomping on something.
He sees the suspect hitting and kicking what he thought initially was maybe a bag of trash, but this person was using the fence and stomping another person's head extremely violently.
The guy that you see, let's describe him.
Let's say about 5'10", 5'11".
How much does he weigh?
170, 180 pounds.
He gave a very good description of the clothing that was unique.
He had a black hat on, and he had a black sweatshirt, jogging shirt, and it had red markings on either side.
He also described him as having white shoes.
There's probably blood on his shoe from stomping the guy's head to the freaking ground.
After the assault ended, he observed the suspect walking southbound on Northwest 3rd Avenue, where he loses sight of the suspect. This person was definitely a danger to the public, and we needed to locate and arrest this person as soon as we can.
Investigators enlist forensic evidence technician Mark Weber to find cameras that might show the attack.
I went to the ODOT building, Oregon Department of Transportation, to get video. They have a lot of exterior cameras that help cover the streets in that area. The building itself is 1 block directly east of the crime scene. There was one camera angle on the ODOT building that pointed straight across that parking lot. Right in the area where Tony's tent was, I was hoping it could show the crime scene and show the attack.
Officer Weber brings the footage to the police bureau for analysis.
Let's see what we got.
This view, which covers this entire parking lot, but it's so far away, you're gonna watch it as carefully as you can.
This looks like the area where Mr. Wise was attacked. Let's go to 4 a.m. just before the 911 call.
So looking at the frame, I'm really focusing right around Mr. Wise's tent in the area where I know the pool of blood was located.
Wait, who's that?
I see a figure walk towards the direction of where Mr. Wise's tent was. And then I also see another figure also come in the frame as well. And it looks like then the two figures kind of interact.
Something's happening.
It looked like there was a physical altercation that occurred between the two persons. And at one point in time, a person is knocked to the ground. The suspect continued to kick and punch while the victim was on the ground. Unfortunately, now there's a tree that kind of blocks some of the view.
Replay it.
The 911 caller describes this subject to be wearing lighter colored pants and a darker colored top.
There's light pants. That's gotta be our suspect.
And that's Tony Wise.
The video shows the interaction between the suspect and the victim, and it actually kind of seconds what we heard from witnesses.
It looks like the altercation happens rather quickly. You could tell the fight was a violent fight just based on the person getting knocked down. It appeared that there was only 2 people involved. The biggest drawback about this camera.
Investigators search for surveillance cameras that are closer to the crime scene.
We should be able to find him on other video for the projected time of our homicide.
The attack happened in front of the Blanchet house. There's one camera on the building pointed north. And there was one camera pointed south.
Investigators analyze the footage from both cameras.
All right, can you start about a half hour for the first 911 call?
The camera angle that we're observing here is facing to the south. To the left is the parking lot that's fenced off, and you only capture the top portion of that.
Zoom in.
We start watching the video at approximately 3:50 a.m. We notice where Mr. Weiss's tent is, that portion is not captured in this camera frame.
But we were hoping that this camera might have captured maybe our suspect coming to the scene.
Wait. Who's that? Who's that?
At approximately 3:56, 20 minutes prior to this incident being called into the police, we observed a subject on the sidewalk.
It does look like he was kind of loitering.
Freeze it there. Zoom in on him.
It's difficult to make out facial characteristics of the person, but he's wearing lighter pants and what appear to be white shoes, which is consistent with the description Marcus Dayton provided us.
Let's try the north camera. A minute or two beforehand, see where he came from.
There was another camera angle that faced right at the intersection of 3rd and Gleason.
At 3:55 a.m. on the north camera, we observed the subject that we had seen on the south camera.
That's gotta be him.
You could tell that the jacket the person's wearing is a 2-tone jacket. That kind of gives him away.
This was a big moment because then we're seeing some corroboration on video that kind of matches what our 911 caller is describing.
We didn't get a good shot of his face. This was during COVID, so he was wearing a face mask at the time.
Okay, keep playing.
We see the suspect. He speaks with someone at the northwest corner of the intersection at Gleason and 3rd Avenue.
Then I can see our suspect walking back southbound towards the direction of our scene,
putting him directly in the path of Mr. Weiss's tent, which is just off camera.
We still don't know who our suspect is, but we have a better idea of his movement throughout the scene to start looking at different cameras in the area.
Detective Clifton. Okay, I see. Okay, thank you. Bye. That was the hospital. It looks like he's not going to make it.
We're notified that Mr. Weiss is not going to survive his injuries.
It was severe skull fractures that Tony Wise received.
That's his mother's number.
And before he went any further, that it was something about my son. And it was like having my worst nightmare come true.
Where is he? Okay, thank you.
I needed to be with him to say goodbye as good as I could. When I saw him, I just kept telling him over and over, I love you, son. I love you so much. But he couldn't hear it. At least, I was able to hold his hand and tell him goodbye, and I would see him in another life.
Tony dies from his injuries the following day.
It turns into a homicide investigation at that point. We want to bring justice to the family and know that this person's being held accountable for their actions. Detective Greenlee and I are on scene getting briefings from the responding officers. We learn that another assault had occurred earlier in the morning.
So there was another assault just around the corner.
What?
Yeah.
The officer tells investigators that the assault happened around 2:55 a.m., 80 minutes before the attack on Tony Wise.
And it was a block across from where Mr. Weiss had been assaulted.
We don't know if they were connected, but it was definitely odd. It was very similar to the attack on Mr. Wise.
A witness called 911 to report the incident.
911, what is the address of the emergency? I am right in front of the Chinese Garden downtown. There's this man that was really brutally beat up. What's the color and type of vehicle? It's a white Mercedes-Benz.
What stood out to us was the witnesses describing the suspect also kind of kicking and stomping the victim, and the victim also had severe injuries to his face.
The victim of the assault is Tembelani Deniso.
How many people assaulted him? It was 2 guys.
What about the victim?
I learned from Officer Garth that he interviewed the victim, Mr. Deniso, at the hospital.
He couldn't remember any of it.
He was unable to provide much of a statement as to what occurred because of the head injury.
The Mercedes-Benz was currently still located at the scene, so we take a look. We saw a significant amount of blood on the vehicle.
Some of our criminalists document the scene in photographs and collect blood evidence as well.
With Tony Wise and another victim, Mr. Deniso, the similarities stood out. But we just didn't have much information on what could have been the motive connecting these 2 incidents. Tony Wise was homeless, and now we have another victim with a vehicle, a Mercedes-Benz.
You have a person just randomly assaulting and attacking people downtown. It's very unusual. We'd start looking for surveillance video cameras in that area that we can capture this assault and see if it matches up with the suspect that we had seen at the Blanchet house. Right at the corner there is the Trailhead Credit Union. We observed the credit union there to have an exterior surveillance camera that we believe captures that intersection and ultimately that first assault.
Investigators review the footage back at the police bureau.
Can you go to 2:30 a.m., see if we can spot the vehicle?
We're looking for a white Mercedes. There's a lot of lighting there, so you can see everything in color. The video doesn't come out grainy.
There was a good camera that picked up the intersection. I'm really looking, can I place Mr. Deniso's vehicle there?
There, that's it.
At 2:42 hours on the camera, We observed Deniso's white Mercedes driving northbound on Northwest 2nd Avenue.
You can see the brake lights illuminate and pull along the west curb line. I'm just trying to understand what led up to this assault that took place at the vehicle.
Who's that?
At about 2:53 hours, I see a person walking, kind of looking at his phone, and he's walking northbound towards the direction of Mr. Deniso's vehicle.
Hang on, who's this? Freeze it.
The person walking behind is wearing a kind of a darker shirt, but his pants were of a light color, and then wearing white shoes. And that stood out to me. But it also looked like he was carrying an object in his hand that looked like a jacket.
Zoom in on that.
As they walked towards the vehicle, I could see it almost looked like the door was ajar at one point.
It's so far away, you can't see clearly what exactly happens. You can see movement. The one gentleman's white pants, you can see it moving, but you can't really tell what's going on.
We were really looking closely. It looks like there's a physical disturbance, a fight that happens at the vehicle.
That must be the assault. Keep playing it.
They come walking back, facing the cameras with nice bright lights. We get to see everything as they're walking toward us.
Look, he's wearing the jacket.
That's our man.
Looking at what he's wearing, a jacket with the leather along the sides, it was consistent to the attack on Mr. Wise. So I believe this was the same person.
The one gentleman was wearing a mask. We can't really see his face.
Freeze it there. Can you zoom in on the shoes?
You can see blood on his shoes. You can very plainly see it.
I believe this was blood that was from the attack with Mr. Deniso.
This is definitely our guy.
So we have our suspect at 2:59. It's within just a few blocks and an hour and a half before Mr. Weiss is assaulted. And when they walk off to the south, this was also the same direction where Tony Weiss had been murdered.
But there wasn't a clear connection between both the attacks, so we didn't have a clear motive at this time.
Zoom in on the other guy.
This other person that's with our suspect, he's a high priority for us as well at this point to identify.
As officers search for the suspects, investigators meet with Tony's family.
The detective in charge was really nice. He seemed to really care if they found out who did it, which surprised me because a lot of times when somebody's homeless, they don't seem to get any attention.
Can you think of anyone who might have done this to Tony?
Tony's family had no idea who this person is that committed this offense.
We just try to get an understanding of what prompted this attack, kind of the motive behind it.
I want to assure you that we're doing everything we can to find who did this.
Investigators review additional footage from the Trailhead Credit Union. They trace the suspect's movements following the attack on Mr. Deniso.
At the entrance to the credit union, there's a recessed alcove area where there's a camera.
There he is.
About 3:42, I observed our suspect. He was no longer with the male observed previous with the attack on Mr. Deniso. He was walking towards the ATM machine.
So I bring up that camera.
And I see a white female kind of wearing a pinkish color jacket, almost like a kind of plastic shower cap on her head, and an unknown male. I then see our suspect come into the frame of the ATM.
It's nice and clean and crisp, and it lets us see our suspect in full light.
You could really get a clear image of kind of the t-shirt that he's wearing underneath, the jacket, and that he's wearing glasses. We see that they're both interacting like they know each other.
What are they doing?
Seems like they're pushing, trying to get money out of the machine.
At one point, it looks like the female gets frustrated. Then also a moment that the suspect looks like he gets frustrated at the machine as well, and he punches the machine. When he punches the ATM, it seems like he punched the ATM with a lot of force.
This is maybe 15 minutes before the actual homicide attack at Tony's tent. Is this guy going to strike somewhere else? We're in a race against time to find this person as quickly as possible.
Looking at the video that we obtained from the Trail Credit Union, that was probably our clearest image that we had of the suspect. So I did a screen capture, and then I distributed that through police channels, see if they recognized the person as well.
Meanwhile, Connie searches for someone who can tell her about Tony's last days. Someone who can tell her about Tony's last days.
The police showed me where he had been staying. I wanted so badly to know what was going on with him. Did they know if he was trying to get back in touch with his family?
Did you know my son, Tony Wise? No?
There was somebody that worked at the shelter, and there was a handwritten note in there that said, "Thank you for being who you are. I really appreciate you. You're a good person, and you're my angel." They said it was from one of the other homeless people that they had given to Tony. Tony was living in a shelter and he had a job in there. He cared a lot for the people out there. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if somebody just really appreciated him. I would have given anything to have him back.
Investigators traced the suspect's movements after Tony Wise's murder.
Start a little after 4 a.m.
The suspect headed south after he attacked Tony. Detectives review surveillance camera footage from the likely route he walked.
I see our suspect walking along Northwest 1st Avenue to a staircase, which will lead up to West Burnside Street. Then I could see him walking up the staircase.
Bring up the camera in West Burnside.
So then I look at additional cameras that captured West Burnside Street.
There he is.
And I observed the suspect then walk westbound towards the direction of the shoreline.
The shoreline is transitional housing for people that have been released recently from prison.
He appears to enter the front entrance of the shoreline.
I was just like, holy cow, I know where this guy lives.
Investigators send images of the suspect to local parole officers to see if they recognize him.
And we received a call from Multnomah County Probation Officer Paula Feda, who explained to us that she recognized the person as being Elijah Williams.
Yeah? What can you tell me about Elijah?
She explains to us that Elijah Williams was incarcerated for a period of time for sexual assault on a minor. And that he's now living at the shoreline as kind of a transitional housing upon being released.
It all made sense. The shoreline is literally 5 blocks from where Tony Wise was murdered. On February 19th, we established surveillance at the shoreline. Our plan was to locate Mr. Williams away from the apartment, take him into custody safely, and execute the search warrant at his residence. One of our detectives observed Mr. Williams leave the shoreline. He got on a TriMet bus, and we followed him. And once he was in a position that was safe, we took him into custody. Now, We need to understand why this thing happened. We entered Elijah Williams' apartment, and we recover this jacket. We recover the pants. We recover the glasses.
We also saw a pair of white shoes. This was very important evidence because we knew now that we had the shoes that were used during the assault. They matched the impressions observed previously on the tent.
DNA confirmation determined that Tony Weiss's DNA was on the shoes. Luminol revealed that there was blood on the carpet at the entryway of Elijah Williams' room. They used luminol on the bathroom sink as well. We're 100% confident that we've got the right guy, that he's the person that's murdered Tony Weiss. Inside the apartment, we located what we believe to be steroids, to why he acted the way he did. Elijah Williams is transported back to the detective division, downtown Portland.
First, detectives ask Williams about the assault on Mr. Deniso.
There was a fight. Someone called it in. Early morning hours on the 13th.
I was actually one of the ones that was assaulted.
You were one of the ones that was assaulted? What happened?
A guy stole my friend's phone, and we confronted him about it, and he started attacking me. I did hit him back.
You hit him back?
I did.
He described that he was more the victim of the attack. But that was kind of the first win in the interview of just placing there on scene. Looking at the video after the attack of Mr. Deniso, see red blood on his shoes, so I don't believe that he was the victim.
And what friend was it that you were with to go confront this guy to get the phone back?
My friend Bear.
Bear?
He lays out a story where he claims that he's with his friend. We were never able to identify who this person Bear was. We start speaking with Elijah Williams about Tony Weiss, the attack on him.
There was a fight outside of the Blanche house.
Yeah, I've seen the area before in the parking lot, but I've never actually been by the Blanche house.
At this point during the interview, he details stuff that we know is not true. A surveillance video puts him at the Blanche house.
You can't really argue over it. The video proves the case.
Video has put you at the fight. What happened when you got over there?
I was being loud or whatever. Some dude told me to shut the up. He came out with some pepper spray and just started hosing me down. And then that's when I ran over to try to go grab it out of his hand. He started grabbing me on my throat and grabbed my jacket. And so I tried to wrestle him.
We talked to him about the injuries, the significant damage, and just the pure violence of what the assault had done to Tony Weiss.
The male that I showed you in that picture, when he was taken to the hospital, he was treated for very serious injuries.
But he passed away. And so we can't change that.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
He ultimately regretted what he had done. It's easy to walk away from Tony Weiss, to not recognize him as a person, as a human being, because he was a homeless person.
Williams is charged with second-degree murder for killing Tony Weiss and second-degree assault for the attack on Tembelani Deniso.
We were able to rule out Bear as having any involvement in the Tony Weiss murder and Deniso assault. We were also able to rule out the female at the ATM as having any involvement in the Tony Weiss murder.
Prosecutors pieced together what happened on the early morning of February 13th.
Elijah Williams, he was taking his testosterone, his steroids, drinking heavily, and decided to go out. He was at a club with a friend, and a friend's phone had been stolen.
Williams tells police that Deniso stole the phone. Williams and Bear catch up with Deniso later in the evening.
Mr. Williams brutally beat Deniso and then left him.
There is no evidence that Deniso stole any property from Williams or his friend Bear.
Elijah Williams encountered some friends, including a woman. When the suspect punches the bank machine, he looks angry and then walks off in the direction where Tony had been living. He was being loud, and now Tony had told them to be quiet. They'd exchanged words, and things quickly escalated. He started stomping Tony's head and beating Tony till the point that Tony was no longer conscious. Then left the Blanchet house area, slowly made his way back to his residence. He had been drinking alcohol with the steroids that resulted in him just flying into a rage and doing what he did unprovoked without any further real explanation for it. Tony was a decent guy, and certainly no one deserved what happened to him.
Elijah Williams pleads guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter in the first degree for the killing of Tony Wise. He also pleads guilty to attempted assault in the second degree for the attack on Tembelani Deniso. The judge sentences him to 17 years in prison.
I am glad that that person is going to be in jail for a long time. I hope he doesn't get out, because I would be fearful for anybody that would be near him.
I hear a lot of people say there is no such thing as closure, but I actually think I did feel some, just because they were able to find the killer and he was brought to justice.
This surveillance video was absolutely crucial in this investigation to solve the case.
Without the video, they probably would have never found the suspect. Plain and simple. It seals the deal. The video will tell the absolute truth.
Tony, maybe he would have at least started to have some kind of a relationship.
The concept of urban safety is often built upon a silent, invisible infrastructure in the sprawling metropolitan landscape of Baltimore, Maryland. Thousands of individual lives intersect daily, weaving a complex web of social interactions, professional commitments, and personal routines. Most of these interactions are fleeting and inconsequential, a nod in a hallway, a shared elevator ride, or passing a stranger on a crowded sidewalk. However, within this vast sea of movement, there exists a delicate balance between public order and the vulnerabilities inherent in city life. When that balance is disrupted by calculated actions, the mechanisms of modern justice must rely on a combination of traditional investigative intuition and extensive digital footprint left behind by the modern world. In July 2021, the city of Baltimore was confronted with a series of events that would test the capabilities of its specialized investigative units and highlight the evolving role of surveillance technology in documenting the human experience. This is not merely a chronicle of loss, but an in-depth journalistic analysis of an intensive police investigation, the psychological framework of accountability, and the socio-technical systems that ultimately allowed a community to find answers in the wake of profound tragedy. By examining the lives of Danita Barrett and Ashley Lambert, we gain insight into the profound impact of individual lives on their community and the rigorous processes required to uphold the principles of justice and public safety. The narrative of this investigation begins on July 8, 2021, in the 1100 block of North Charles Street. This area of Baltimore is known for its architectural history and its role as a hub for professional and residential life. It was here that 45-year-old Danita Barrett resided. Danita was described by those who knew her as a woman of character and routine, a person whose presence was woven into the fabric of her neighborhood. To understand the gravity of her absence, one must first understand the life she led, a life defined by her relationships and her place within the Baltimore community. When Danita was found deceased in her apartment, the initial response was one of profound concern and methodical inquiry. In the early stages of any such investigation, the police must operate without the benefit of hindsight. They are faced with a scene that offers only silent clues. The medical examiner's determination was clear. Danita had been the victim of manual strangulation. This specific form of harm is significant from a forensic and psychological perspective. It represents a close contact interaction, one that requires a specific set of choices and physical actions by the responsible party. It is a focused act, devoid of the distance provided by other methods, suggesting a specific dynamic that investigators would need to decode. The Baltimore Police Department Homicide Section immediately began the arduous process of victimology, the thorough study of the victim's life to identify any potential conflicts or risks. They looked into her professional life, her social circles, and her recent interactions. Yet, as is often the case in complex urban investigations, the most significant leads did not come from her known associates, but from the silent witnesses mounted on the walls of the city's buildings. This is where the role of CCTV, closed-circuit television, becomes central to the journalistic record. In modern policing, the digital canvas of a city provides a chronological map of movement. Detectives began the painstaking task of reviewing hundreds of hours of footage from North Charles Street and the surrounding blocks. They were looking for an anomaly, a person or movement that did not fit the natural rhythm of the neighborhood during the time frame of the incident. Their diligence was rewarded when they identified a male figure appearing in the footage near Danita's residence. In a journalistic and educational context, it is important to observe how investigators use these visual breadcrumbs. They noted the individual's gait, his specific attire, which included a distinct blue shirt, and his timing. The footage showed this individual entering the building and later exiting, but there was a specific detail that caught the investigator's attention. He appeared to be carrying items that he did not have when he entered. This behavior is a significant red flag in forensic psychology, often associated with a desire to retain a physical connection to the event or the individual involved, a concept sometimes referred to in behavioral analysis as trophy taking. While the investigation into Danita Barrett's death was gaining momentum, the city was struck by a second incident that occurred less than a week later. On July 14, 2021, the focus shifted to the Envy Hotel in downtown Baltimore. There, 29-year-old Ashley Lambert was discovered. Ashley was a young woman with her entire life ahead of her, described as having a bright personality and a future filled with potential. Her presence at the hotel was part of her personal journey, a snapshot of a life in motion that was abruptly halted. The forensic findings in Ashley's case mirrored those of Danita's manual strangulation. To the investigative team, the emergence of a second victim with the same cause of death within a 6-day window was a high-priority signal. It suggested a pattern, a systematic approach that indicated the individual responsible was not acting on a single, isolated impulse, but was operating within a recurring framework of choice and action. The convergence of these two cases shifted the investigation into a higher gear. The Baltimore PD utilized what is known as linkage analysis, a process where detectives compare the details of multiple incidents to find common denominators. The commonalities here were striking. The gender of the victims, the specific method used to cause harm, and the geographical proximity within the city. But the most definitive link was once again found in the digital eye of the hotel surveillance system. Reviewing the footage from the NB Hotel, investigators observed a familiar figure, a man wearing the same distinct clothing seen in the North Charles. Street footage was captured on camera. The video showed him interacting with Ashley, entering her room and later leaving, the composure of the individual in. The footage was a point of intense study for behavioral analysts. He did not appear hurried or panicked. Rather, he moved with a calculated normalcy that allowed him to blend into the urban environment. This ability to appear unremarkable is often a key characteristic that investigators look for when identifying individuals who repeatedly circumvent public safety. The identification of the suspect, later identified as Stephon Maurice Gilliard, was a triumph of systematic police work. By tracking the suspect's movements through various camera feeds across the city, investigators were able to trace his path to a specific neighborhood and eventually to a residence. This process, often called video canvassing, requires a high level of coordination between different departments and a deep understanding of the city's transit and pedestrian patterns. Stephon Gilliard was a young man whose background would become a subject of intense scrutiny for legal and psychological professionals. In an educational analysis of such cases, it is crucial to look at the developmental and social factors that contribute to such a path. While avoiding the humanization of the actions themselves, we must look at the red flags that might have been present in his history. Accountability is the cornerstone of justice, and understanding the trajectory of an individual who chooses to violate the most fundamental human right, the right to life, is essential for future prevention. Reports indicated that Gilliard had previous encounters with the legal system, suggesting a pattern of behavior that was escalating in severity. The term trophy collector emerged in investigative discourse because Gilliard was found in possession of items belonging to the victims, including cell phones. From a sociological perspective, this behavior suggests a lack of empathy and a viewing of other human beings as object to be exploited or curated. It is a profound departure from the social contract that allows a city to function. The arrest of Stephon Gilliard brought the investigative phase to a close and transitioned the case into the judicial phase. The trial offered a platform for the evidence to be presented in a controlled, factual environment. The prosecution's case was built on three main pillars: the forensic evidence, linking the cause of death in both cases, the undeniable surveillance footage, placing Gilliard at both scenes, and the physical evidence, the trophies found in his possession. During the legal proceedings, the testimony of forensic experts provided a sobering look at the mechanics of the incidents. They explained to the jury how strangulation requires sustained physical effort, countering any defense claims of accidental harm or sudden, uncontrollable impulses. The legal arguments focus on the premeditated nature of the actions, highlighting the consistency in Gilliard's approach and his subsequent efforts to conceal his identity or profit from the stolen items. The impact on the families of Danita Barrett and Ashley Lambert cannot be overstated. In a journalistic reflection, we must acknowledge that behind every piece of evidence and every minute of surveillance footage is a human story that has been irrevocably changed. The courtroom became a space where these families could seek a measure of accountability, their strength in the face of such. Profound loss serves as a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of a community's commitment to justice. Stefan Gilliard was eventually found guilty and sentenced, a conclusion that provided a legal resolution to the events of July 2021. However, the educational value of this case extends beyond the verdict. It serves as a significant case, studying the efficacy of urban surveillance. The see no evil aspect of the investigation highlights how technology acts as an objective recorder of truth, bypassing the fallibility of human memory or the lack of eyewitnesses in private spaces. From a societal perspective, this case prompted discussion on the balance between privacy and safety. While the extensive use of CCTV is a subject of ongoing debate, its role in identifying and apprehending an individual who posed a clear and present danger to the public is a powerful argument for its continued and regulated use. It also underscores the importance of mental health resources and the early identification of individuals who display the behavioral markers of escalation. The lives of Danita Barrett and Ashley Lambert are remembered not by the manner in which they were taken, but by the impact they had on those around them. Danita is remembered for her presence in her neighborhood and her connections to her family. Ashley is remembered for her youth, her ambitions, and the void her absence left in her social circle. By focusing on the journalistic facts and the investigative process, we honor their memory through a commitment to understanding and preventing such tragedies in the future. This investigation also sheds light on the dedication of the Baltimore Police Department and the forensic specialists who work tirelessly to connect the dots. Their work is often a silent endeavor, involving thousands of hours of data analysis and physical evidence processing. It is this dedication that ensures that those who choose to disrupt the peace of city are held to account. In reflecting on the trophy collector case, several key lessons emerge for both law enforcement and the public. First is the critical importance of rapid communication between different investigative units. The quick identification of the link between the North Charles Street scene and the Envy Hotel scene was vital in preventing further incidents. Second is the role of the community in providing information. Even in a world dominated by digital evidence, the initial reports and observations of neighbors and hotel staff provided the context necessary for the cameras to be useful. Finally, we must consider the psychological aspect of accountability. The term serial is often used in a sensationalist manner in popular culture, but in a journalistic and educational sense, it refers to a specific breakdown of social and moral boundaries. Stefan Gilliard's choices reflect a profound disregard for human life and a focus on self-gratification to the control of others. By analyzing these traits through the lens of forensic science rather than fascination, we can better equip our societal institutions to intervene before such patterns reach a point of no return. The city of Baltimore continues to evolve, as do the technologies and methods used to protect its citizens. The case of Danita Barrett and Ashley Lambert remains a somber chapter in the city's history, but also stands as a testament to the power of truth and the relentless pursuit of justice. It reminds us that while an individual may attempt to move through the city in the shadows, the collective efforts of community, aided by the objective lens of technology, can bring the truth into the light. As we conclude this narrative analysis, we are left with a deeper understanding of the complexities of modern criminal investigations. It is a process of reconstruction, taking the fragments of a life and the digital echoes of a movement to build a factual account of what transpired. Through this rigorous journalistic approach, we move away from the sensationalism of tragedy and toward more profound appreciation for the systems that strive to keep us safe, the professionals who uphold them, and the enduring value of every human life. Within our society, the story of Danita and Ashley is a call for continued vigilance, a commitment to urban safety, and an unwavering belief in the necessity of accountability. Through education and insight, we honor the past and work toward a more secure and understanding future.